Hi, I'm Dave Asprey, Bulletproof executive, and I'm giving this little talk today about orgasm versus performance and something about data. And now I'm waiting for the slide to advance. There we go. Disclaimer here, do not try this at home, or if you do, your results may vary. Don't know exactly what else to say. I took a lot of looking at Eastern practices, Western practices, and I found this equation. This equation says that you take your age minus 7 and divide by 4 if you're a boy, and this would be the minimum number of days you should have between ejaculations to maintain your health. This comes from Tantric practices, which are about being immortal, not about having really good sex, even though there could be something else involved there. In fact, if you're really good at this, you just have one ejaculation, or commonly called an orgasm in the West, between ejaculations, so 30 days, one time. But when you do it, you could do it for 30 minutes. So I thought this sounded like an interesting sort of biohack, kind of quantified self thing to try. Who wouldn't, right? So Napoleon Hill writes about this whole chapter in his book called Think and Grow Rich, a famous self-growth, about harnessing the power of sexual energy in order to do other things. Martial artists, neuroscientists, Buddhists and Hindu people, Chinese medicine writes extensively about this. So what did I do? I looked at how often did I ejaculate, how often did I have sex. In fact, I would say we could call this sexual stimulation because I'm not telling you how many times my wife and I did something versus I was all by myself. And I came up with an equation. And I said, how happy am I, basically? What's my satisfaction with life? 1, damn, things suck. 5 is, that's how I normally am. And 10's like, whoa, stuff rocks. And I wrote it down once a day. First test, limit ejaculation, have as much sex as you want, and say, I'm just going to do it less. Like, maybe I'll try 8, which is my number, because I'm about 40. And the second one was limit sex and limit ejaculation. Since my number is 8, I said, all right, I'm just going to go 8 days without ejaculating, which sounds easy. The data is here. So what you'll see, it's kind of hard to point, especially with 15 seconds, which is funny enough why I put 2 slides here. If you notice the green dots that say, oops, when I said it was hard, I was, oh, darn. Oh. Sorry, I had to say that. What you'll find here is when I was actually able to go 8 days, what would happen here is my general satisfaction was up and to the right, which is the way you would hope it would be. And you'll also find that as the time goes on, sex actually increases, which is kind of interesting. So the less you ejaculate, the more you want to have sex. Oh, wait, you didn't need QS to tell you that, did you? So I also learned my quality of life is actually better. My perceived quality of life is better when I have more sex, at least if this ejaculation stuff holds on. And then we get to this 30-day test. This was hard. And the lack of compliance problem, so I strung 3 30-day periods together. This was not for lack of trying. And what you'll find is that the blue dots get really close together, which symbolize how often was I having sex. And that generally I was substantially more satisfied with life when I was actually only ejaculating once every 30 days. In fact, really 30 days is an incredibly long time. I had huge amounts of energy. I was extremely productive. I was also pretty happy, and I also wanted to have sex all the time with anything near me. But that energy can be used. And this is the hardest one, 30 days of not having any sexual stimulation whatsoever. I just didn't record one day in the middle there. So this actually was really, really incredibly difficult. And I learned some things I didn't necessarily think I was going to learn during this time, which will come up on the next slide in a second or two here. What else can I tell you about this? I actually don't recommend that you experiment with this, to be perfectly honest. The Taoists wouldn't either. What I learned when I went through all this was that the 30-day Tantric Theory seems to hold for me. The 30 days of no sex was actually created more happiness than having an ejaculation every 8 days. But the best was having sex and 1 ejaculation per every 30 days. Like I said, I had to work to get to that. I actually talked about this at the last QS, just over drinks with people. So I've been working on this for a while to try and get the data and make it work. And learned some important things here. One of them, it's possible to have a male orgasm for about like 20 minutes. And that's probably as a result of doing yoga and some breathing and heart rate variability training and things like that. It's also just about impossible to measure 30 minutes, because if you're having an orgasm for 30 minutes, you're just not going to use a stopwatch. It's just not, it's not going to happen. So one time, my incredibly tolerant and wonderful wife decided that she would time something, and that one was 8.5 minutes. And she's like, that wasn't that long compared to normal, but at least we got one data point there, and so that's what I've got. But the important thing there is most of us think like a minute would be an eternity. Darn, these slides are going fast. What else did I learn? You make pheromones when you don't ejaculate a lot. You make a lot of pheromones, and like they have an effect on the women around you, not just the one you're married to. Also, when you're in a highly frustrated state, aside from the pheromones, like women just like to have sex with you because it's funny, right? You know, you're not going to finish. So apparently, that's just a way to make yourself more attractive. And finally, don't have an orgasm for like 20 or 30 minutes. It's just a bad idea. Like my abs hurt for days. And on top of that, I can tell you, I was exhausted, like for days after a half-hour orgasm. So and this is even worse. The whole 30 days, like with no stimulation at all, like, whoosh. Okay, so this is a problem, right? And this is not a problem I'm familiar with. Oh, wait. So, it turns out you can influence the size of the equipment by about 20% using exercises, and if you don't pay attention to things, they will shrink. So there's a total range of about 40% from as small as it goes to as big as it goes. The exercises take about 30 days to take effect. These are in an ancient book on Chinese medicine, male deer exercises. No, see, there's photos coming up. They're actually called the male deer exercise.
Ernesto, putting Dave last was a good idea. So let's take some questions. Come on, I'm sure there's not any questions about that.
So I have two questions. The first is the slide deck going to be available online?
Probably. Yeah, I'll put it up.
Okay, right on. The second one, and this is kind of intense, is how do you define orgasm? That might be an obvious question, but that's running through my mind.
Okay, so there's the tantric definition of orgasm where you can have an orgasm without ejaculating. And then there's certainly, in the West, usually the two are correlated. It's entirely possible with a lot of training to have like the tantric style retrograde orgasm, which means that you don't actually ejaculate, but you experience the pleasure of an orgasm. So when I'm talking about a 20-minute orgasm here, I'm talking about ejaculation followed by intense contractions that don't stop until you like bang your head on the wall or something.
Right on. Thanks.
So I said, don't try this at home. It's not that much fun.
Hey, Dave. I really appreciate this talk, by the way. I really like when people go out, onto the fringes of what we're comfortable talking about as a society.
Right.
It was awesome. It was awesome. I think it's the fringe compared to most of the talks this weekend, so I really appreciate that. The first question I had is with regards to your productivity. Mm-hmm. What did you notice at the beginning, maybe, and towards the end? Did it get easier? Did it get better? Did it suck? And
productivity goes way up, and this is one of the things that motivated me first. Like on the Bulletproof Executive blog, like I write about human performance and productivity, and it's a really big focus for me. So it was Napoleon Hill's writing where he talks about being really productive. I also spoke with a New York Times best-selling author over drinks, and he was someone who knows about this sort of thing. And I asked him, and he laughed, and he said, yeah, I made a deal with my wife once. I told her I wasn't going to ejaculate till I made $250,000. And he said at the time, that was a very large amount of money for me. And he said it took me 30 days. And so you can power enormous amounts of motivation. My own productivity over the course of this experiment, let's see, my cookbook is launching on Tuesday. in January, my book through Wiley's being published. I'm a full-time vice president at a large internet security company. I flew 100 times last year. I have 2 young kids. I spend a lot of time with them. I don't know how many 100,000 words I've written. My blog's going on, like, I don't know, I'm a busy guy. Productivity comes from being aware of this kind of thing, for sure.
That's awesome. I'm going to steal that strategy. And the second one is, you're obviously a well-practiced meditator. So as far as channeling that energy, do you have anything to share there as far as, in your meditation practice? Could you feel that energy, your ability to channel it, your ability to use it, or was it limited
to like
being?
a general, just zest for life, passion, motivation, or drive, you could say. But I may not be the best guy to ask because I'm pretty good at channeling my energy anyway. Mm-hmm. So maybe it was just more energy to channel.
Cool. Thank you.
Sure.
Very cool analysis. So I have experimented with that a bit as well, and a large number of my results cohere with yours.
Oh, cool.
One, and including the quality of life feeling, which is kind of contradictory because it seems it's sort of a torture, but it also feels good. I guess it's kind of like working out. Did you notice, or I'm curious what effect you saw of whether or not your partner orgasms or not, what that effect had on you? What effect that had on you?
Well, the fact that it had on me. Well, I mean, I think
was that just normal for this process?
I think everyone likes it when their partner orgasms, right? I mean, so you're saying was like this? You're asking that psychological effect on me, or like performance effect, or like what effect are you looking for?
Well, on those metrics, was that just a normal part of having those blue
Are you saying
of those
was
blue
my
squares?
partner orgasm?
Yeah.
Yeah, like dozens of times.
I mean, I know it's kind of a personal question, but
the answer is yes. Yeah, that's just a normal thing.
Yeah. So,
and I'm actually really serious about the part about the fact that it makes you more attractive to your partner and to other women. I had several times randomly where women would be like, what is it about you? Like literally ask me, like they can tell there's something different, whether it's energetic. I think it was pheromonal mostly, but like literally self-aware women would be like, there's something really different about you, and I don't understand why I'm feeling this desire for you right now. Like I had 3 conversations like that, which doesn't normally happen to me, and I'm like, that's just kind of good for my ego. But other than that, it was just an outlier. Like it didn't make sense. I've never seen that experience before, so.
How long was the experimental period you kind of had?
So I mean, I've been for the last 2 years. I've been really focusing on that, and so the 90 days that you saw there were earlier this year, and then the 8-week periods or the 8-day periods were before that, towards the end of last year.
And then my other question is, are you done with the experiment, or are you going to keep doing more, or are you going to just apply
Well, it's
what
not
you
really an
learned?
experiment anymore. I'm more productive and happier. So yeah, I don't just go around ejaculating all willy-nilly anymore.
All right. I have a bunch of questions, but I almost feel like leaving it right there. In fact, I think I will. That was great. Thank you, and thanks everybody.